Communication is the successful exchange of information, ideas, thoughts, and feelings. Um, Let me tell you a story. Back in the 1800s, 1830s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like that, there was a huge industry, and it's an industry that built the world, and it was logging, and it occurred many places around the world, of course, but it occurred in North America, in the Pacific Northwest. And this was, of course, long before the days of 18-wheeler trucks and highways and Sikorsky helicopters that would come in and pick up these huge trees that they were cutting down. You know, the world at that time was being built of wood, and the logging industry grew up out of people cutting down trees in the Pacific Northwest. And the highway that they used to move these trees, they would cut them inland and they would float them down rivers. Rivers were the highways. And at the end of the rivers went into the sea, into the ocean. That's where the sawmills were, and that's where the tall ships came and would pick up the cargoes of wood and take them to other parts of America and all the way, to Europe, to Australia, to wherever they were going. And the loggers would cut down these trees and they would buck them, it was called, and drag them out of the forest and roll them down the banks of the hills of the mountains into the rivers. And these things are huge. I mean, these trees weighed thousands of pounds, and there were hundreds, even thousands of them floating down the rivers. And inevitably, a log jam was created. And there's one thing that fascinates me about that is that they found that whenever there was a log jam, this is, I mean, business was stopped, right? Their raison d'etre, their reason for being, was just frozen solid in this twisted mass of these, multi-thousand pound trees. There was always one log, and they called that log the kingpin because that was the one log which, if you could pry that loose, everything else would start to flow. The entire flow would begin again. Just one log, the kingpin. Now, why I tell you this is because I believe completely that any problem you encounter in relationships, in friendships, in partnerships, anything in any business has a kingpin, and that kingpin is the same thing. It's communication. It's the successful exchange of information, of ideas, of thoughts and feelings. And when that flow is stuck, when there's a log jam there, we're inhibited in giving and taking that information, those ideas being exchanged. Um, it's said for years, for example, the number one problem with couples getting a divorce or having trouble together with parents and children. I mean, you know this. It's communication. What's that wonderful line from Strother Martin, the warden in Cool Hand Luke, said, "What we have here is a failure to communicate." And that's exactly true. Um, what we always have in every situation that's not working is a failure to communicate. We're either not being open to what's being said, or the other people we're communicating with are not open to what's being said. And communication comes down to two things, always just two things: speaking and listening. Of the two, listening should come first. Two ears, one mouth. We need to listen at least twice as much as we speak. And the deal is that if you can increase your speaking and listening, if you and there's skills, so you can increase them, you can learn them, you can master them. That's a lifelong process for sure, but they can be mastered like any skill. And the payoff is huge. If you could increase your ability, your skill to speak and listen, what impact would that have on your life, your relationships, your friendships, your partnerships? If 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 you're in any of the people professions, where relationships and friendships and partnerships matter the most. Communication, speaking and listening, is vital, it's critical. And there are things that you can do. They're not always easy, like listening. Listening's hard work. When you really, really listen to someone, and what that means is a full and complete focus on him or her, on what's being said, on the words and music. When you do that, even for just 5 minutes, you're tired. It takes a lot of focus, a lot of discipline with your mind to really listen. Listen means being completely open, being free of an agenda, not judging. Listening is finding value, not finding fault. It's validating, not violating. And speaking all comes down to asking questions. And I say asking the right questions. Questions that build energy. Questions that open up possibilities. Questions that are genuinely curious, that want to know more. Because in all of that speaking and listening, what happens is a connection is made. And the better the speaker and listener that you are, the deeper, the stronger, the more powerful that connection, the more energy is exchanged in that connection. You can speak and listen in ways that have people truly want more of you and more of what you're offering too. You can get to the heart of the matter, no matter what's the matter, with improved speaking and listening skills. They're just it's the kingpin. Communication is the kingpin, and it's made up of speaking and listening. I don't think there's anything you could do with your life that's more important to improve. And how much can you improve? Well, think for a minute. What would it be like if you were twice as skilled a speaker and a listener as you are today? Twice as skilled. Is that even possible? Well, wow, twice. That's like another 100%. Gosh. Well, think of it this way. If you improved 1/3 of 1%, if you got just this tiny bit better every day by paying attention, by learning, by practicing better speaking and listening skills, what would that be in a year? That'd be 100%. That'd be more than 100%. That's pretty extraordinary. And that's possible. And what if that's a pipe dream and you could only do like 20% better or 30% better? I promise you, you would change your life and the lives of the people around you dramatically. And in terms of success, I think you could write your own ticket.